Captain Lisa Harper stood in the underground facility below the Arctic ice and watched the data flow across her screens. The numbers told her everything she needed to know. The Council was going to attack. They would arrive in exactly 14 days. What the Council did not understand was that humanity had been preparing for this exact moment for more than 50 years. She was 42 years old, but the weight of her species sat on her shoulders like a heavy coat she could never remove. Around her, 3,000 scientists, engineers, and soldiers moved through the corridors of the secret base with quiet purpose. They had been trained for this moment their entire lives. They knew what was at stake. They knew that failure meant the end of everything humanity had built. The first indication of trouble had come 30 years ago when the Deep Space Monitoring Station discovered something in the background radiation of the galaxy. It was not a natural signal. It was artificial, and it was watching Earth. The discovery had been kept secret from the world governments because everyone who looked at the data came to the same conclusion. Something out there was keeping an eye on humanity, and whatever it was impossibly advanced. Within 5 years, the real truth emerged when 3 alien ships suddenly appeared near Mars. They did not attack. They did not broadcast messages. They simply observed and then left. But that brief contact gave humanity's best physicists and programmers everything they needed. They could study the ship designs. They could analyze the propulsion signatures. They could begin to understand that Earth was not alone in the universe. The governments of Earth held emergency meetings. Within months, the secret base was being constructed, a hidden facility that the rest of the world did not know about, a place where humanity could prepare for a future that might involve contact with alien species. Some people called it paranoid, others called it survival instinct. Lisa Harper had joined the program when she was 25 years old. She was one of the best strategic thinkers on the planet. She could see 3 steps ahead of any problem. She could predict how situations would develop before anyone else understood what was happening. That skill had made her invaluable to the program. The next major discovery came 10 years later. A probe, one of humanity's most advanced satellites, picked up a conversation between alien vessels. The code was complex, but the Earth's best cryptographers eventually broke it down. Humans learned that there was something called the Galactic Council. This council consisted of 63 different alien species, and the humans of Earth were being discussed. The council's position was clear. Humanity was developing too fast. They were too aggressive. They reproduced too quickly. They consumed resources without control. According to the council's perspective, humans were a threat to the balance of the galaxy. Something needed to be done about them. There had been debate among the council members. Some wanted to destroy Earth immediately. Others wanted to wait and watch. Still others suggested making contact and offering peaceful solutions. In the end, a vote was called. The decision was made to wait, but the waiting period would only last 300 years at most. After that, if humanity had not proven itself to be a peaceful and controlled species, elimination would be ordered. Lisa Harper was 17 years old when that information became public knowledge on Earth. The news had sent the entire planet into chaos. Wars broke out over resources and territory. Some people lost hope and stopped trying. Others doubled down on survival. Religious groups claimed it was the end times. Scientists worked frantically to develop faster ships and new technologies. But 30 years later, when Lisa Harper entered the secret program, she understood something that most people on Earth did not. The Council's decision, while concerning, gave humanity something valuable. It gave them time, and humans had always been good at using time to their advantage. The base had grown over the next 2 decades. It was not just a military installation. It was a complete reproduction facility for human civilization. It contained genetics laboratories where they preserved samples of every type of human being on Earth. It held libraries with the complete record of human knowledge. It had manufacturing plants that could produce anything humanity might need in space. It had the best scientists and engineers humanity could find. 20 years ago, Lisa Harper had been promoted to captain and placed in charge of the entire operation. It was a responsibility that kept her awake at night, but she had accepted it because she understood what had to happen. Humanity could not fight the Galactic Council directly. Humans did not have the technology or the numbers, but humans could disappear. They could scatter across space and survive. And that was exactly what they planned to do. The first signs of the final countdown came 3 months ago. The Council sent a message directly to Earth through the communication channel they had established. The message was simple and direct. The Council had voted. Humanity was deemed a threat. A fleet would be sent to eliminate the problem. The humans of Earth had one final choice: surrender to Council authority or face complete destruction. Earth's governments had tried to negotiate. They sent messages begging for peace. They offered to limit their expansion. They promised to follow Council rules. But the Galactic Council had already made their decision. Nothing would change it. Lisa Harper had informed the leadership on Earth that the secret program was about to launch. In 1 week, they would begin the evacuation. Every human that could be taken would be transported to ships hidden in secret locations. The knowledge and samples and records would be moved off-planet. When the Council's fleet arrived in 14 days, they would find Earth empty. It was a gamble. Humanity might not survive out in space. The colonies might fail. The supplies might run out. But staying on Earth meant certain death. There was no choice at all. Now, standing in the base with her hands clasped in front of her, Lisa Harper spoke to her commanders for the final time before the evacuation began. "We have done everything we can prepare for this moment," she said, her voice steady and clear. "We are going to survive. We are going to scatter across space and find new homes. And one day, when we are strong enough, humanity will be part of the galaxy as equals, not as victims. That day is not today. Today we run. But we run so that tomorrow we can stand tall." The evacuation protocols began immediately. Humanity's great journey into the unknown was about to start. The transport ships left Earth's surface in complete darkness. No lights, no radio transmissions, no signals that might alert anyone watching from the stars above. The evacuation happened in silence and shadow, just the way it had been planned. 90% of Earth's human population was left behind because they did not know about the secret program. Only the 3 million people who had been recruited over the decades made it onto the ships. Lisa Harper sat in the command center of the lead vessel and watched as the coordinates for the gathering point updated on her screens. The ships were scattered across 1,000 different routes to confuse any tracking systems that might be monitoring them. They would not meet at a single location until they were far beyond what the Galactic Council considered to be human space. Her communications officer was coordinating with all the other transport ships. He had been working for 14 hours straight, and his eyes showed the strain. But he did not slow down. Everyone on this mission understood that speed and precision were the difference between survival and extinction. "All civilian transport ships have reached the outer relay stations," reported. "The research vessels are at Checkpoint 5. Military ships are moving to defensive positions around the perimeter of the evacuation route. We have successfully moved 2.8 million humans off-planet." Lisa nodded. The remaining 200,000 would have to stay behind. It broke her heart, but the ships only had so much capacity. They had made the difficult choice to save the families with children first. Children were the future. Children were hope. If humanity was going to survive, they needed the next generation. The second major event happened just as the last civilian transport cleared the outer planets. Military satellites that had been left behind on Earth and in orbit suddenly activated all at once. They began broadcasting false signals. They made it look like Earth was still populated. They created communications traffic that suggested human civilization was continuing normally. It was a deception tactic designed to buy time. When the Galactic Council's fleet arrived in their sensors, they would see what appeared to be a normal planet. They would not realize that the population had vanished until they started sending down landing parties. By then, the human ships would be far enough away that escape would be possible. The flagship that Lisa Harper commanded was called the Unity. It was the largest transport ship humanity had ever built. 3 miles long and over 1 mile wide, it carried the genetic samples, the knowledge libraries, and the essential equipment that humanity would need to build new civilizations on distant worlds. If the Unity was lost, humanity would lose decades of progress and knowledge. That made it a priority target if the Council discovered their location. "Captain, we have a problem," said, his voice shifting to the tone that every commander dreaded. "I am detecting Council communication signals moving through the relay stations. They have discovered the evacuation path." Lisa's hands tightened on the armrests of her chair. "How much time?" "At their current speed, they will intercept the last civilian transport ship in approximately 6 hours. The military vessels protecting that route will not be able to fight them off for long. We need to decide now whether we send more military ships to help or if we sacrifice that transport to save the others." It was the kind of decision that Lisa Harper hated making. Every human life mattered, but mathematics and strategy were not concerned with emotion. One transport ship carried 12,000 people. The military would need to commit 5 combat vessels to attempt a rescue, and even then, the odds of success were only 40%. Those same 5 vessels would be more useful protecting the main evacuation fleet from a larger Council attack. "Send encrypted message to the transport commander," Lisa said, keeping her voice level. "They need to change course and jump to the backup coordinates. They will scatter themselves into independent vessel groups and attempt to reach the secondary rendezvous point. It is the best chance they have." "Understood," replied. He relayed the orders immediately. Lisa Harper closed her eyes for a moment. Those 12,000 people on that transport were going to scatter across space in smaller groups. Some of those groups would not make it. Some would run out of supplies. Some would be captured by Council patrols. But some would survive. And survival was all that mattered now. The next hours passed in controlled chaos. The human fleet was already moving at maximum acceleration toward the jump coordinates where they could breach space and move to an area that the Council had not yet surveyed. But the Council fleet was fast. They were intercepting human vessels at the edges of the evacuated zones. The first combat engagement lasted 17 minutes. A single human military destroyer faced 2 Council cruisers. The human ship was outnumbered but the human captain knew that her job was not to win. Her job was to buy time. She launched all her weapons, damaged one of the Council ships, and then jumped away to rejoin the main fleet. 6,000 civilians that had been on nearby transport ships made it to the jump coordinates because of that 17-minute fight. The captain of that destroyer was Commander Helen Wade. She had been trained since childhood for this kind of sacrifice. She did not die in that battle. She escaped to fight again, but she knew that there would be more battles ahead, and eventually one of those battles would be the last one. By the time the main human fleet reached the jump coordinates, they had lost 40% of their civilian transport capacity. That meant 1.2 million humans would not escape Earth. It was a devastating loss, but it was not total annihilation. Lisa Harper stood in the observation deck and watched the Council ships pursuing them. She could see their weapons charging. She could see their formations arranging for a final assault, but her hand was raised to signal the jump. "All vessels ready for dimensional breach," announced, "commencing jump in 30 seconds." The Council ships fired everything they had at the human fleet. The weapons lit up the space with fire and destruction. But the human ships were ready. Their shields held long enough. The jump coordinates activated. "The Galactic Council strike came too late" was the title of a historical analysis that would be written 5 years later. But at this moment, Lisa Harper was simply fighting to keep her species alive. The jump happened. The human fleet disappeared into folded space. When they emerged, they were in a region of space that no Council ship had charted. They were safe. For now. The region of space where the human fleet emerged was utterly hostile to organized life. Cosmic radiation filled every corner. Unstable wormholes opened and closed without warning. Asteroid fields moved with unpredictable trajectories. Most advanced civilizations avoided this area entirely because the risk of losing ships was too high. That was exactly why Lisa Harper had chosen it as the escape route. The fleet regrouped at the first checkpoint. When the final ships appeared through the spatial breach, Lisa Harper did a quick calculation of the survivors. Out of the original 3 million humans who had left Earth, 2.1 million made it through the jump alive. 890,000 humans were either dead or missing or left behind on Earth. It was a staggering loss, but it was also a miracle that anyone had survived at all. The Unity's medical bay was overwhelmed with injured people. The ships had been designed for comfort and long-term travel, but they had been pushed to their absolute limits during the escape. The life support systems were struggling. The fuel supplies were being consumed faster than planned. The radiation shielding was being tested by the intense cosmic storms that surrounded them. Lisa Harper held a full command meeting in the strategy room of the flagship. All the commanders of the major transport and military vessels were present, either in person or as holographic projections. Everyone looked exhausted. Everyone looked like they had aged 10 years in the past 24 hours. "We are alive," Lisa Harper said, her voice cutting through the exhaustion in the room. "That is what matters right now. We did not achieve every objective, but we achieved the most important one. Humanity escaped Earth." Commander Victor, who led the Military Defense Division, leaned forward. "Captain, we have reports that the Council fleet is attempting to follow us through the unstable region. 3 of their ships have already been destroyed by spatial anomalies, but they are persistent. If they follow us for another 50 light-years, they will catch us again." "Then we do not go 50 light-years in a straight line," Lisa said. She pulled up a map of the region on the central display screen. "We navigate through the densest parts of the unstable zone. Our ships are smaller and more maneuverable than Council vessels. We can take routes that their bigger ships cannot safely travel. We use the dangers of this region as our protection." Who was now managing all navigation systems for the fleet, began working with his team. They plotted a course that would take the human ships through the most unstable parts of space. It was incredibly risky. Some of the smaller vessels might be damaged or destroyed, but it was the only way to ensure that the Council ships could not follow. The journey through the unstable region took 3 weeks. During that time, the human fleet lost 17 ships to spatial anomalies, cosmic radiation, and equipment failures. Over 200,000 humans died in those 3 weeks. The Unity lost 2 lower decks to a sudden spatial surge. The medical bay worked without rest trying to save everyone they could. But the Council never followed them through the worst of the radiation zone. 2 Council cruisers that had been pursuing the human fleet simply disappeared into a wormhole anomaly. Their distress signals were picked up and then cut off abruptly. The remaining Council forces decided that pursuing humans through this level of danger was not worth the risk. When the human fleet finally emerged on the other side of the unstable region, they had entered truly unknown space. The stars that surrounded them were different from anything in Council territory. The planets they detected were unmapped and uncharted. The possibility of alien contact was low. Humans had found a sanctuary. Lisa Harper stood once more in the observation deck and watched the endless expanse of space before her. Behind her were 1.9 million humans, all that remained of the billions who had lived on Earth. Ahead of her were possibilities she could barely imagine. Approached her quietly. "Captain, the long-range sensors have detected something unusual. There is a planet system 8 light-years ahead of us. The planets appear to be unclaimed. The primary planet has a breathable atmosphere and compatible gravity. Initial scans suggest it could support human settlements." Lisa Harper nodded slowly. "How long to reach it?" "At current speed, approximately 4 months. But Captain, if we settle there, we will be establishing the first permanent human colony outside Earth. The Council will eventually discover we exist somewhere. They will search for us. This settlement will become a target if they find it. Yes, Lisa Harper said. It will, but we have already lost everything we came from. We have already lost billions of people. We cannot keep running forever. We have to make a stand somewhere. We have to build something that will last. She turned to Face directly. Send word to all the fleet commanders. We are changing course. We are going to the planet 8 light years ahead. We are going to land. We are going to build. And we are going to survive not by running anymore, but by becoming strong. The announcement was received with a mixture of relief and fear. People wanted to settle somewhere. They wanted to stop being refugees, but they also understood that settling meant taking a risk. It meant putting down roots in a place where the Council might eventually find them. Over the next 4 months, the human fleet sailed through space toward their new home. The scientists and engineers aboard the ships began planning the colony. They discussed what kind of government to establish. They debated which human cultures and knowledge should be prioritized. They made hard decisions about resource allocation. When they reached the planet system, Lisa Harper ordered the first landing teams to descend to the surface. The atmosphere was clean. The water was drinkable. The soil could grow crops. The planet had everything humans needed to survive and eventually thrive. The first human settlement on an alien world was established. They named the planet Hope because that was what it represented. It was the beginning of something new. It was the proof that humanity could not be erased. It was the foundation upon which a new human civilization would be built among the stars. Lisa Harper stood on the surface of Hope and breathed the alien air. Above her, the sky was a shade of blue that was different from Earth's sky, but beautiful nonetheless. Around her, humans were working to build the first buildings, to plant the first crops, to establish the first settlements. The Galactic Council had tried to strike too late. They had tried to eliminate a species that refused to be eliminated. And now, on a world they had never discovered, humanity would grow and learn, and eventually become powerful enough to no longer fear the Council's judgment. The survival of the human race had begun on the day they left Earth, but the future of the human race was being born right here on this planet called Hope. 7 years after the evacuation of Earth, the human civilization on Hope had grown into something remarkable. The initial colony of 50,000 humans had expanded to over 300,000. New settlements were being established across the planet. Agriculture was producing surplus food. The technical manufacturing facilities had been built and were beginning to produce advanced equipment. But more importantly, 6 additional colony worlds had been discovered and settled. The human fleet had not simply landed on Hope and stayed there. Instead, they had continued to explore the uncharted regions of space. They had found worlds that ranged from perfect habitats to barely livable rocks. Each settlement represented another branch of human civilization, another location where humans could survive if the others were attacked or destroyed. Lisa Harper was now 50 years old. The years had been difficult and marked by constant decision-making. She had aged in ways that went beyond simple chronology. Her hair had turned gray. Her face was marked by lines that had been carved into her skin by stress and responsibility. But her mind was still sharp, and her determination had never wavered. The command center on Hope was now a permanent installation built partially underground. It served as the administrative center for all human activities across the 7 settled worlds. From here, Lisa Harper coordinated ship movements, approved new settlement initiatives, and managed communications between the scattered human colonies. Came into her office early one morning with urgent news. Had also aged, and he now had gray in his hair as well. He had been Lisa's right-hand person since the beginning of the evacuation. She trusted him completely. "Captain, we have detected a council ship entering the outer reaches of our star system," said without preamble. It is moving slowly, and it appears to be conducting a deep scan of the region. They have not detected our settlement yet, but it is only a matter of time. Lisa Harper's heart rate increased, but her outward demeanor remained calm. This moment had been expected for years, but that did not make it less difficult. "Classification of the ship?" she asked. "It is a council patrol vessel, small and lightly armed. It is probably conducting routine exploration of the region. The pilot probably has no idea that humans have settled here." Lisa Harper stood and walked to the window of her office. From this vantage point, she could see the city of New Earth spread out before her. Humans were working in the fields. Children were playing in the streets. Ships were being loaded with cargo. Life was happening, and now that life was under threat again. "Send message to all sector commanders," Lisa said. "Red alert status. All military vessels move to defensive positions, but do not open fire on the council ship unless they fire first. I am going to attempt contact." Look surprised. "Captain, are you sure? The council believes we are extinct. One small probe ship cannot threaten the entire human civilization. We could destroy it without raising the alarm." "Yes, we could," Lisa agreed. "And then we could go back to hiding. But hiding is what got us into this situation in the first place. We hid because we were weak. We ran because we did not have the power to stand. But we are not weak anymore. We have 7 worlds. We have resources. We have technology that is equal to anything the council can produce. Maybe it is time to stop hiding and start being known." She turned back to face her communications officer. "Prepare an unencrypted broadcast on all standard frequencies. I want them to know that humans are alive and well and waiting for them to arrive." The broadcast went out across multiple frequencies. It was short and direct. "This is Captain Lisa Harper of the human colony World Hope. We come in peace. If your ship is willing to conduct peaceful negotiations, we welcome the opportunity to meet. If you are here to conduct another attack, we are ready to defend ourselves." The response from the council patrol ship came within minutes. The pilot was shocked, confused, demanding answers. The pilot explained that the Galactic Council had declared humanity extinct 7 years ago. The planets of Earth had been bombarded until they were barren. No human civilization should exist anywhere. Lisa Harper responded calmly. "What you destroyed was empty buildings and abandoned infrastructure. Humans escaped because we understood the threat. We have been building a new civilization in uncharted space. The Galactic Council failed to eliminate us because they never understood what humans are capable of." The negotiations went on for hours. The patrol ship did not attack because its pilot realized this was a situation far beyond his authority. He contacted Council headquarters through the faster-than-light communication network. The message would take days to reach the Council and days more for a response to come back. In the meantime, the human and Council representatives engaged in discussion. The pilot's name was, and he was a member of the species and race that worked as explorers and surveyors for the Galactic Council, was professional and curious rather than hostile. He wanted to understand what had happened to humanity and how they had survived. Lisa Harper explained the evacuation. She explained how humans had scattered across space and eventually settled on multiple worlds. She explained how humans had continued to develop technology and how they had created a functioning society in the uncharted region. "This is unprecedented," kept saying. "No species has ever escaped council elimination in this manner. You are either the most clever species I have ever encountered or the most fortunate." "We are the most desperate," Lisa Harper corrected. "Desperate species do remarkable things. When they have nothing left to lose, they achieve what others thought impossible." When the Council's response came back 7 days later, it was not a military command. It was a message from the Galactic Council itself. The Council wished to understand what had happened. The Council wished to make contact with humanity. The Council wished to renegotiate humanity's status. The shift in the Council's position had occurred for a simple reason. The discovery that humanity had survived the elimination strike meant that the Council's decision had been wrong. If the Council could be wrong about one species, could they be wrong about others? What other species might have survived beyond Council-monitored space? What other civilizations might be building power in the uncharted regions? The political balance of the Galactic Council had been disrupted by the simple fact that humans existed when they were supposed to be extinct. Lisa Harper made the decision that would change everything. She told the Council that humanity was willing to open formal negotiations for a place at the Council table. She offered to send representatives to Council headquarters to discuss terms. She made it clear that humans were not seeking revenge or retaliation. Humans simply wanted recognition and the right to exist as an independent species with all the rights and responsibilities that entailed. The Galactic Council agreed to the proposal. They sent a special diplomatic vessel to bring human representatives to their headquarters. Lisa Harper selected herself and Commander Victor to make the journey. As the diplomatic ship left the planet Hope, Lisa Harper looked back at the world that had become humanity's sanctuary. 7 years ago, humans were refugees running from extinction. Now, humans were preparing to sit at the table of the galaxy's most powerful organization. The strike had come too late. Humanity had already built something that could not be destroyed. And now, slowly and carefully, humanity was preparing to take its place among the stars as equals rather than as subjects or victims. The diplomatic ship moved through Council space with careful precision. They were a small human vessel surrounded by the vast military might of the galaxy. Lisa Harper stood in the observation deck and watched the approach to the Council's central station. It was the first time any human had ever seen this place with their own eyes. The station was enormous. It was constructed around a cluster of asteroids and appeared to be the size of a small moon. Hundreds of docking bays lined its exterior. Thousands of ships of different designs and origins moved around it like insects around a colony. The engineering required to construct something this massive was beyond anything humanity had achieved so far, but Lisa Harper did not feel intimidated. She felt curious. She felt like she was arriving at a place where she was supposed to be. The docking procedure took an hour. The small human ship was guided into one of the bays with careful instruction from the Council's traffic controllers. When the doors sealed and the docking clamps engaged, Lisa Harper took a deep breath. "This is it," said softly. He was standing beside her, looking out at the crystalline corridors of the Council station. "We are about to change everything." Lisa Harper nodded. "Yes, and they are about to change everything as well. They just do not know it yet." The welcoming ceremony was formal but not hostile. The ambassadors and representatives from all 63 Council member species had gathered in the main chamber. It was a magnificent room with a ceiling that rose so high it seemed to touch the stars themselves. The walls were transparent, offering views of space on all sides. The Galactic Council representatives sat in seats arranged in concentric circles. At the center was the chamber floor where the human delegates would present their case. Lisa Harper walked into that center and felt the weight of every alien eye upon her. They were looking at a species that was supposed to be extinct. They were looking at a species that had not only survived but had thrived. Admiral was present in the chamber. He was older now, his fur showing white streaks that had not been there 7 years ago. He was still the commander who had ordered the strike against Earth. Now he was watching as the consequences of that decision walked across the floor of the Council chamber. Lisa Harper stood in the center and raised her hand to request permission to speak. The Councils, an ancient being named who had been making decisions for the Galactic Council for 3 centuries, granted her the floor. "I am Captain Lisa Harper," she said, her voice steady and clear. "I represent the human species and the 7 worlds that now comprise our civilization. We have come to this place because we believe it is time for humanity to take its proper place in the galaxy. We are here to speak as equals." A wave of discussion moved through the chamber. Equal meant they wanted recognition. Equal meant they wanted seats at the council table. Equal meant they wanted a say in decisions that affected the galaxy. The representative from the species stood up. It was the same ambassador who had recommended the strike against humanity all those years ago. We voted that humans should be eliminated. We destroyed your worlds. How can you possibly think that you deserve to be treated as equals now? Lisa Harper did not hesitate. Because you tried to destroy us and failed. You sent your most advanced military forces to wipe us from existence, and we survived. We learned your technologies. We built a civilization in the places you thought were too dangerous to inhabit. We proved that humans have something that your species lacks. We have adaptability. We have courage. We have the will to survive against any odds. She walked forward slowly. The real question is not whether we deserve to be treated as equals. The real question is whether you can afford to have us as enemies. Your strike against us was supposed to be simple. Your superior technology, your greater numbers, your experience with warfare should have made us easy to eliminate. But we were not easy to eliminate. What would happen if every species you tried to destroy refused to disappear? Silence filled the chamber. It was the silence that followed a statement that changed everything. Commander Victor stepped forward. The human military has developed defensive technologies that match anything you can produce in this region. We have 7 settled worlds with growing populations and industrial capacity. We have established trade routes and communications networks independent of council infrastructure. We are not asking for permission to exist. We are informing you that we do exist and that we are prepared to defend that existence. Added, we also have something valuable to offer. Our people have developed new approaches to solving problems. We have perspectives on technology, resource management, and cultural exchange that differ from your established systems. We believe that the addition of human input to the Council's deliberations would improve decision-making for all species. The representatives discussed among themselves for hours. Finally, they called for a vote. The question was simple. Should humanity be granted official recognition as a council species with full representation? The vote was not unanimous. They voted against it. Several other species that had supported the original elimination order voted no, but the majority of the council voted yes. Admiral, surprisingly, voted in favor of the resolution. He explained afterward that he had come to understand that the humans represented the future. Denying them a place at the table would only make them a greater threat. Humanity was officially recognized as the 64th member species of the Galactic Council. The celebration that followed was restrained but genuine. The human delegation received invitations to meet with multiple other species. The Sethians wanted to discuss human artistic traditions. They wanted to learn about human military tactics. They wanted to establish trade agreements. The galaxy, it seemed, was discovering that humanity had much to offer. Lisa Harper stood once more in the observation deck, this time looking at the council station from the inside. She thought of all the humans who had died during the evacuation. She thought of the billions left behind on Earth. She thought of the 800,000 humans who had been lost to space and radiation, an accident during the journey through the unstable region. All of those sacrifices had led to this moment. Humanity had arrived. Humanity would no longer run. Humanity would stand among the stars and be recognized for what they truly were: survivors, builders, and a species worthy of a place in the galaxy. 3 months later, Lisa Harper retired from active duty. She was replaced by as the chief representative for human interests with the Council. New settlements were established on 12 additional worlds. The human population began to grow at a controlled rate. Humans began to study other species' technologies and to teach their own knowledge to willing students. The Galactic Council strike came too late was eventually the title of the historical record that documented everything that had happened. The strike was supposed to be a simple matter of eliminating a threat before it could grow. Instead, It became the catalyst that launched humanity into the stars as full participants in galactic civilization. But Lisa Harper did not care about historical records or titles. She cared about the future. On a quiet garden world that humanity had just begun to settle, she stood under an alien sky and watched human children play. These children would grow up in a galaxy where humans belonged. They would not need to run. They would not need to hide. They would simply need to be the best version of themselves that they could be. That was enough. That was everything. That was the victory that humanity had achieved by refusing to disappear.